Hello, I'm Amy Zahle with the Jerusalem Connection Red Alert Report, A Time to Remember. You may recall last week that I reported that Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau stood up for Israel publicly and continues to do so by condemning BDS efforts within his borders and supporting national policies to forbid it. BDS stands for Boycott, Divest, and Sanction and is aimed against both the nation-state of Israel and the Jewish people as a whole. Soon to follow, Norway has indeed reiterated the same sentiment. According to the Norwegian organization With Israel for Peace, this organization is the largest non-religious pro-Israel organization in Norway. The Christian Democrat Party is now in control after their last election and is headed by a pro-Israel leader named Kjell Ingolf Ropstad. I hope I pronounced that correctly. They've inserted some pro-Israel paragraphs into new government guidelines. While similar types of sentiments have appeared in the past, what is new is a particular clause for the government to, quote, lay the groundwork for strengthened research and development, cooperation, trade, tourism, and cultural exchange with Israel. The government does not see a boycott of Israel to be a contribution to dialogue, understanding, and a peaceful development within the Middle East. That is an awesome statement for Norway to put inside their government guidelines on how to move forward. Norway in the past has contributed funds to Middle Eastern organizations that they later found out were used to reward terrorist families and other terrorist activities. The Norwegian government is now squarely opposed to the use of their funds in that way, and they are watching where their contributions are going, or rather where they end up. If the UN can only come up with a similar mindset, that would be wonderful. Holocaust Remembrance Day was on January 27th, and while social media was replete with stories posted in groups such as Camera on Campus, the Israel Project, APEC, Aisha, so many stories about unsung heroes who saved lives, hid Jews, smuggled Jews, forged paperwork, stood up to SS soldiers, stood up to Nazis, defied authority, even to save one life, and often at the expense of their own life. Also, there were stories reminding us of the sheer tragedies, the personal horror, the medical experiments, the mass killings, and just the sheer number of deaths. In the days that followed on these trails of social media posts, they included some surveys that noted that 20% of UK citizens surveyed had little or no knowledge of the Holocaust. What I want to know is what is going on in the curriculum in Europe as far as the history department. We are roughly 80 years out from this tragedy. Survivors still walk this earth, while dwindling in numbers, can convey their firsthand accounts. England's arguably greatest leader ever, Winston Churchill, and the entire citizenry of that time stood up to the Nazi regime and with the help of the US liberated an entire continent from it. Could this be why anti-Semitism is still afoot in the region? This ignorance? Why Parliament members such as Jeremy Corbyn can reign and espouse such anti-Semitic remarks and still continue to be voted into office? Ireland just proposed an anti-Israel bill that targets the so-called occupation areas of Judea and Samaria, specifically targeting businesses with interests in that region. Remember, during the years that preceded the Holocaust, Jewish businesses were boycotted. These were government-sanctioned boycotts, and in many cases, government-mandated boycotts. These people really need to have a history lesson. All while this is going on, the U.S. celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Let's remember his words, quote, Israel must exist, has the right to exist, and is one of the great outposts of democracy in the world. Martin Luther King was a dear friend to the Jewish people and the state of Israel. And that's because he was a follower of truth and justice in its most raw formation. That is, that truth and justice is God ordained and God given. Martin Luther King Jr., the good doctor, also noted that he was a champion for the freedoms of people from all colors and all origins. I am personally grateful for the work of Dr. King, his words and his sentiments, but many of his so-called followers, I don't think, are reading his works very carefully or listening to his speeches very critically. Too many of his so-called followers, including Tamika Mallory and others, pervert Dr. King's good work and the love of Israel and twist his quest for freedom and truth and justice into their own narrative to fuel their flawed agendas, including Israel hating. We today in the U.S. have elected officials on video supporting BDS activities and chanting with their arms raised in the air, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." This is on video of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, the newly elected Congresswoman from New York. And then we have Minnesota's elected Congresswoman Omar actively fighting to kill a bipartisan BDS bill that has been in Congress for quite some time and ready for a vote. So please, let's all be the watchmen. Let's all be the watchdog. Do not allow anti-Semitism to creep into the hollow halls of our government, our free-loving government founded by Judaic principles and shared with the current state of Israel. Know the truth and always remember. Shavua Tov. Have a great week.